right, welcome to High Floor Football. Here we go. We are without Sam today, but we do have two guests. We've got Kevin Coleman from Footballguys. Kevin works for Footballguys as the Devy Royale. He also was the Tags Rising Star Award winner, which is, pretty awesome accomplishment, Kevin. So happy to have you on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me. At least we got one fellow West Coast guy on the show, so we don't feel all weird out here. It's pouring out here, but no, I'm excited to get on and talk a little rookies since I've been watching these guys for like 20 years, it feels like. So finally they're in the league.
And Ben, we have you coming on today, taking the place of Sam. We really appreciate you coming on. And Ben, your accomplishment that I'm gonna, shout out here is you finished top 5 in Scott Fishbowl. So there you go.
Yeah, that's right, man. I appreciate you bringing that up. And former co-host Dynasty Double Wing. So Jay and I go back on the podcasting side of things. So happy to be joining you again, man. It's been a minute for sure. And yeah, it's right. I almost, to be totally honest, it feels like it's been so long since the Scott Fishbowl stuff happened and the way everything ended last season. With the Bills, Bengals, and all that. So yeah, man, it's cool. It's a cool, I guess banner to hang, on the fantasy side of things.
Had to give you something there, Ben.
I appreciate it.
We talk every day, but we haven't been on a podcast together in a long time, so I'll shout you out for that. And today we're gonna do a super flex rookie mock. We're gonna go 4 rounds. Myself, Kevin, and Ben are gonna alternate picks here. I'm gonna start at the 101. Ben's gonna go 102. Kevin 103, and then we'll just go through the picks, kind of talk about some of the reasoning, some of the ranges in which these guys are going, and just, some general thoughts on these prospects. So we're going to dive right into it. So I'm going to click start here, and then we'll start the draft.
Sweet.
And no surprise, I'm going to go 101 here. I'm going to take Bijan Robinson, even though it is the Superflex draft, not too far from the consensus there. And I'm going to put him on the board. I actually got into a kind of an interesting conversation with him on Twitter the other day. There was a poll that the Dynasty Nerds posted kind of saying, if you were in a Superflex Dynasty League and Ryan Tannehill was your QB1, would you still be taking Bijan over the quarterbacks? That became a little dicey for me. I did say that I would be looking at some of the quarterbacks to take there if I was in a bad position. But Bijan's the best player on the board. I'm going to take him there. Any of your guys' thoughts on Bijan?
Yeah, man. I would say just because my clock's running down, I'm going to make my pick real quick here, at least on the board. But I mean, Bijan is, he's the guy as far as running backs go. I mean, he's the Saquon, he's the Zeke, he's the unquestioned guy as far as, he probably even maybe better than all those guys. So, it's really hard not to take him 101 when you've got like the star running back staring you down. So can't really fault you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you came with a surprise there with Anthony Richardson 102, which I guess maybe is becoming less of a surprise the closer we get to the draft. But you have any, sort of explanation for that or what you were thinking taking him off the board at 102?
Yeah, without team or situation, at this point, whether it's for Anthony Richardson as far as draft capital goes, I mean, at this point, who knows? He could be the first quarterback taken. I mean, just everything we're hearing, it might be a surprise at this point, but just betting on upside, right? I don't know what my fantasy team has or anything like that, but I mean, just betting on the upside here and betting on the Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields trajectory and seeing, where he ends up landing and just kind of hoping I hit that ceiling.
Sure. So Anthony Richardson's off the board 102. Kevin, you're on the board at 103. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to take CJ. I think to your point about Bijan, I saw you get in an argument on Twitter. I try to stay away from arguments anymore on Twitter, but I saw you talking about that. I think you take Bijan though, like even if your quarterbacks suck, so we had somebody in our Discord for our Patreon talking about it today. And he's like, well, what do I do? And I said, well, Bijan's right now Dynasty running back 1 in a lot of people's eyes. That's not really going to change. He's going to be a top 5 guy, the rest of the year. A lot of these quarterbacks, I would say Richardson probably has the highest upside in terms of fantasy purposes. But a lot of these guys are not going to be higher than top 5 quarterbacks, right? Just look at the dynasty market. And so, like, even if you take Bijan, his value is not going to drastically dip. You can still move him and, like, do these type of things. So, like, I still think he's the 101 no matter what. Like, and I think you just kind of – and if you can't get the compensation you want, then you just wait. And then you just trade him later. Like, I think that's the move. I like Richardson. I think he does have a high ceiling, and I think if you're going to go for ceiling plan there, and I think CJ has the safest. In my opinion, CJ has the safest floor out of all these guys. So if you're sitting at 103, you need a solid quarterback in your super flex leagues. I take CJ and just love that floor.
I feel like this is the new 1, 2, 3, right? Like it's going to be Richardson or Stroud. It kind of seems to be at least from a fantasy standpoint. It's weird. I mean, Bryce is just kind of getting pushed down, whereas I feel like just a couple weeks ago we were all probably would have taken him QB1 and maybe even 101 in a super flex. So it's the narrative's changing quickly, and you kind of have to keep up with it.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble with the actual sleeper app here, but my 104 here, which I didn't really expect, because Richardson kind of was a surprise at 102 for me. But I'm going to take Bryce Young at 103. I would prefer to go Jackson Smith-Njigba here, but with the quarterback still on the board, I'm going to take Bryce Young. 104 right after CJ Stroud. And then we'll get you back on the clock, Ben, at 105.
Yeah, sweet, man. As far as Bryce Young still going there, I mean, I think that's the conversation is, literally what feels like 2 weeks ago, he was the QB1 for a lot of us, and was probably going to be the first overall pick, and now it just feels like he's getting pushed down a little bit, and he hasn't done anything to not still be that guy. So it's kind of hard, and especially in a super flex, to not take him if he's the third quarterback off the board and you're sitting at 104. You're in a pretty nice spot.
Yeah, I like that at the 104. And then where are you going with the 105, Ben?
At the 105, then I mean it's definitely not going to be a quarterback now. I'm not going to value Will Levis at this point that high. Now it's kind of crazy to be sitting here at 105 and have your pick of the non QBs that's not Bijan. I think for me, I'm probably going to play the floor ceiling game. Probably, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to have them both. I love his game, and I think it's going to translate really well to the NFL. I think he's going to produce. He's going to produce early. He's probably going to be a quarterback's best friend really quickly, because the guy's just going to be open. And as long as his quarterback's willing to check down to him and find him in the mid range, I think he's going to see a lot of volume early.
Yeah, I personally hated not taking JSN at the 104. It was, pretty painful for me, but with the way that the quarterback thing fell, I'm going to take Bryce Young there, and we'll roll Kevin at 106.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Gibbs, right? That's pretty I feel like that's pretty much the tier here. Like, if you're sitting at 107, you're kind of right now. Like, I would be honest, in a lot of leagues out there, like, that's kind of the 106 is really the highest value tier you can have, like in terms of picks, because you're going to get JSN or Gibbs to fall to you. Maybe one of those quarterbacks. I've seen Bryce fall to 106 in a couple of mocks that I've been doing. The case may be, but like I'll take Gibbs pass catching upside. I think people comp him to Kamara for some reason, but he's not. I don't see him as Kamara. I actually think Gibbs could be like a Dalvin Cook type running back. I actually can see him being a 3-down guy. Like Gibbs, he's 5'9", and I know he's 199, and analytics people are weird about 1 pound, but like I do think that like he'll be okay once he gets over that. Like he's gonna play at a different weight. He'll get in the he'll have that upside pass catching. Like this is pretty much how it's gonna probably be your top 6 picks, unless something drastically changes in the draft. And even then, I think these are the most talented guys. And then you're going to have that tier break. And then the only thing that could probably kill JSN would be like go to the Patriots or something. Like if he went, or Baltimore or something out there where you're like, now that wouldn't kill me. I'd still take JSN because he's the most talented guy. But like, I think some people would be like, we could see maybe Addison or Quentin jump up there. But no, I think this 6 is really where you go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it is a tier break here, but I still like the player at 107 here. I'm going to take Jordan Addison off the board at the 107. And yeah, actually, funny enough, Ben and I are in a Dynasty league together, and we made a trade where I ended up with the 107. And I feel like I've been trying to move it a lot of different places since I got it. But I'm happy getting Jordan Addison here. That's kind of my tier break at this point, because I'm not a big Will Levis fan. Still kind of trying to figure out how I feel about Quinton Johnston, but I do feel good about Jordan Addison. And I actually feel like the way that the combine went for him, was negative for kind of what we expected, but I really don't think it impacted his draft stock much. I still think he's going to be one of the top 3 wide receivers off the board and go in that first round. So I'm comfortable taking Addison there, and I'll kick it to you, Ben, at 108.
Yeah, it's funny, Jay. You and I, we've been talking for a while that it really feels like there's going to be this tier break at like the 6-7 range, and landing spots determine a lot of it, I think, and Addison could really hit a great landing spot with a QB that I think maybe makes it like a tier break at 7. But yeah, definitely, I feel like if you're in that 7-8 range right now, maybe get ahead of it and see if you can't move around a little bit. But for me at this point, I'm betting on Quentin Johnston. I still really like him, the player. We haven't seen him test yet, and I think if he did test, he'd be really in that conversation I still think the NFL teams are going to view him probably as maybe the wide receiver one. I'm hoping, I don't know if he's scheduled to test at his pro day. I'm trying to keep up with all the news, but I don't know if he's going to test and when it's going to happen. But I think that's one we still watch out for because he's big. He's probably the biggest receiver, at least in the top guys in the class. And I think he's going to get drafted a lot higher than maybe he's being valued right now.
Yeah, prior to the NFL Combine, he was the betting favorite to be the first wide receiver taken off the board, followed by Addison, and then JSN is actually the third pre-Combine. Kevin, what are you thinking at 109?
Yeah, so I'm not going to break my rule of never drafting Levis. So I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet here. So you guys can decide who's going to take Levis.
Okay, he's going to fall way too far in this draft then.
I'll take Charbs. I think he crushed the combine because he got into the number that he needed to do for his 40 because he went down in weight. Then he's going to go back and weight. He doesn't have to run the 40 anymore. So being in that 4-5 range in terms of where his running, where his 40 was, I think that he's going to end up being running back 3 of this class based on draft capital. If you needed a running back, unfortunately, as a tier, but if you needed a running back and you're looking at the board and you're like, hey, I think Sharps is the pick. I think that he can give you some production there. If you don't need a quarterback, then definitely. If you did need a quarterback and you want to take a shot on Levis, I get it. But this is also the range where I think you trade for a veteran quarterback if you need a quarterback. So if there's some guy like with Russell Wilson on his roster and he's a tanker and he doesn't have any good players and he's like, hey, I'll take a shot on Levis. I could trade the 109 and 110 for what Russell Wilson, let him take Levis. And then you kind of ride out with one of these older prospects, the Kirk Cousins type, like those types guys. And then you go try to win your league. I think that's the move in this spot.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm here at the 110. I think Levis is going to fall at least one more pick. I'm going to take Zay Flowers, and I think that he's going to find himself in the first round. He kind of reminds me of the Jahan Dotson of this year, where he's going to kind of slide into the first day. Jeremiah has been talking about him for the past couple months as somebody who people might be surprised is going to go higher than we think. That was kind of the same sort of narrative with Jahan Dotson last year. He was sneaking him into the back end of his first round mocks. A lot of people were starting to talk about Jahan Dotson, but he was a little bit older prospect. He just wasn't as, exciting as some of the guys that went before him. He came into the league and, didn't produce, as high end as, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Drake London, but he had a pretty good rookie season, all things considered. And I think that we're pretty excited about him still, but Zay Flowers is an exciting prospect, also a little bit older, had a really productive season last season. Bulked up a little bit before the combine, still tested really well. So I'm going to take him at 110. I think if he gets the first round draft capital, I think that, that's going to become a lot more common. And 111, Ben, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's funny you make the comparison on Zay to Jahan Dotson because I was thinking earlier too, he really reminds me of this year's like Rashad Bateman, Jahan Dotson, who at this point in the process, he was really kind of that early second rounder, and he ends up getting the draft capital just like those guys did, and I think he's somebody that's definitely going to get his value pushed up here a little bit in the next couple weeks. But I said Will Levis was probably going to fall too far, and I think I'm probably going to have to take him here. Superflex, there is a very, very obvious tier break when it comes to the QB class after Will Levis. Whether I'm a big fan of him or not, he's going to get probably top 5, top 8, 9 NFL draft capital. So he's going to go somewhere. He's going to get a shot to start for the next couple of years. So it's really hard not to take him. And if he hits the ceiling, maybe you've got a Ben Roethlisberger type who just is a fun ride for a little while. So yeah, I'll take Will Levis at 111 and bite the bullet for you guys.
Yeah, I've been talking to some of my friends who aren't in the fantasy community but are big football fans too, and we've just kind of been talking. One of them's a Raiders fan. Raiders sitting at 7, and it's looking like they could end up with Levis just kind of based on the board and based on how many quarterbacks might go prior to 7. And I'm not a Will Levis fan, but I keep having to preface it with if he's good, if it does work out, I'll just take the L on it. I'll be wrong. He's just not somebody I'm a fan of, but. You get a little scared these days really saying this guy, I'm completely out on this guy because guys have transitioned in the NFL and changed what they were coming in. So here we are at 112, wrapping up the first round. Kevin, what are you thinking?
Yeah. And to you guys' point, yeah, I'm a fraud too. Cause I'm going to start up with Jeff and these guys, and for football guys, they asked us to do one. And I took one quarterback early, and then after that, it gets really nasty out there. And so, I took Levis in the 8th round as my QB2. But if he's going to get top 10 draft capital,
yep,
that's not a bad pick. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, it's all about the value stuff there. In terms of that. Yeah. So, at the 112, there's this isn't tight end premium, is it? This is just straight up.
No, we'll just call it regular.
Okay.
Yeah, no tight end premium.
Of course, you bastard. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll take Josh Downs. I'll take Downs then. So
I like that.
I think it's between Mayer and him, like for me at this point. But I'll take Downs because I do think that the interesting thing between him and Flowers is going to be like, all right, who gets the better draft capital? And I think that Josh to me is a better route runner than Flowers. I think Flowers can be explosive, but I do think Josh is a little bit better in terms of just like overall prospect. So like I'll take him here. I think they're very close. That's why they keep going back and forth. Like in our rookie guide that we did, we comped him to Brandon Cooks. And if Downs could have like a Brandon Cooks type fantasy, you're probably pretty happy with that down the end of the stretch here at the back end of the first.
Yeah, I like that pick too. He was somebody that I was considering when I picked Flowers at 10. I kind of think that those two are going to end up being two guys that are almost interchangeable in that range. I'm going to take Tank Bigsby here at the 2-1. I like him. I actually saw Kevin. I saw your guys' mock draft with Devy Royale, and Christian picked him 104. Christian,
yeah.
So where are you landing on that? Because I like watching your guys' show. I like watching your guys' content. I'm trying to catch up on some of these prospects as well, and I know there's been kind of a wide range on him. So I'm taking him at 201 here. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on him.
I think Tank's solid as like a second round pick. Like I've always kind of been like, hey, if you can get Tank, and I don't think he came in very bad at the combine. I thought he's pretty average. Like we comped him to like as his ceiling could be Josh Jacobs. And I think he could. Like I think doesn't catch balls that much, but he can score touchdowns. Very good quick feet in the inside zone and runs and those type of things. So like I like Tank here. I think Tank's a good pick in the second round. Like if you can get him in that second round, you'd be probably pretty happy with maybe his production moving forward, what he gets, as long as he gets day 2 capital. I think that's the concern. He's like teetering on round 3-4 with all these dudes. So like this tier is kind of incomplete right now. This is the running back tier, but the incomplete running back tier because we don't know draft capital. It's going to change everything. That's the case.
Yeah, the draft capital, and then also all these free agent running backs. That we're going to start finding out answers on tomorrow on where they're landing, and then where these other guys go, and kind of the backfields that get cannibalized by 2 or 3 of these guys. So Ben, here you are at the 2-2. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and I would say. You guys totally hit on it. I mean, the draft capital is going to change a lot of things here in this. Like I would say, almost like 111 to like 205 range. I mean, so much I think is going to be TBD here. But for me, I would say he's probably going to be my running back 3 in this class is Devon Achane because him checking in at 188 was really nice for me. And I mean, his speed, it's maybe hyperbole, but it's world class. I mean, it's Devon Achane is just that's his, he hits that high gear and it's ridiculous. So I'm just going to bet on the upside at this point. And so, I mean, if I'm sitting here at the 102 and I got Richardson and Achane, I mean, if they both hit, I'm feeling pretty great. But yeah, I mean, Achane, I just think at this point, we'll see where he lands. I mean, if he lands in Miami and he's there like 1A, 1B going into week 1, I mean, that's a really fun guy to have on your team for fantasy purposes. So yeah, we'll see where he lands. But I mean, I think he's got the height, weight, speed checked off for me, and I'm good with it.
Yeah, you beat me there. I was going to ask. I was going to say I'm going to put you on the spot and say, where would you like him to land? And you walked right into it. I kind of knew you were going to say Miami there.
Yeah, I would say I think Miami's probably the easy one for him. But I mean, yeah, it's hard not to just kind of really imagine him just lighting it up there.
Yeah, speed. 203, Kevin. What do you think of here?
Yeah, to your point with Miami, I would love that. I think too though, like they just traded their 3rd for Jalen Ramsey. So like they only have I think 4 draft picks because they forfeited their 1st. So it's gonna be to your point, Jay, about like free agency. I wonder like if they go after someone maybe like a veteran type guy like that they plug, and so that might just screw all of our hopes of Devin Achane going to Miami because like that would be a perfect spot for him.
Yeah.
And I love that. But yeah, to me, I'm going to take Michael Mayer. I'll just take him here. Okay. Cool. I think safe floor. I thought, there were some people talking about how he did bad at the combine. No, he didn't because he didn't run above 4.8 because I was scared shitless he was going to run above a 4.8 and he didn't. He came in 4.7. Like, I think he's I think he's very solid. Like we've been talking about this kid for 3 years and now all of a sudden he's bad, which is not true. Yeah. Like I think he just has a very, very safe floor. He's tied in probably 7 right now, I think, in Dynasty rankings, 6, 7, somewhere around there, because the tight end position's kind of so you're looking like, hey, I'll take someone in that middle of the second. If you're taking Mayer at 110, yeah, you'd be a little bit nervous. But if you're taking him in the second, I think he's a very solid producer on your Dynasty team.
I like that as well. I'm going to take Jalen Hyatt here, which I feel like is getting kind of controversial. There's a lot of people talking about if he was even the best wide receiver on his team last year. But I think Jalen Hyatt's also a guy that could kind of sneak into the first round. And from what I've read, the past couple of weeks or months, it seems like NFL teams might like him a little bit more than some of us, draft people, some of us fantasy people. And, he also is a guy who at the combine, I don't think did as poorly as people were trying to make it out to be. I mean, he ran like a 4.4 flat. I think everyone was expecting he could have been a little bit faster, but it's a 40-yard dash. I think sometimes we weigh a little bit too much into that. But he was a good producer last year, and I think he could get in the first round. So anybody else have any thoughts on Jalen Hyatt here?
He scares the heck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. Maybe it's the shades of the Will Fuller, which is the easy comp, but I mean, it's just the body type and everything. It just scares me, man. It's at this point, yeah, that 204 by all means, like it's.
Hey, we had some fun with Will Fuller, man. We had some fun.
We did. You're right. We absolutely did it, and that ceiling was really fun. But I mean, yeah, at 204, I'm all for it, right? That's fine. But again, like to the point on Michael Mayer, right? If you're betting at 111, 112, I think that's a little risky for my taste. But yeah, I mean, the upside's there still.
Sure, and you're on the clock at 205.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take one of my guys, and this is probably early for rookie drafts, but I'm going to take Rashawn Johnson. I think he's going to really settle in as a top 5 running back in this class, and he's not getting the rookie draft capital, but I think he's actually going to get the NFL draft capital. He's a guy that so he was Bijan Robinson's backup at Texas. So to me, he doesn't have the wear and tear necessarily on his body for a guy that plays like he does, because of the touches were limited playing behind Bijan. So I think that's great coming into the NFL. And also, like Jay, you and I, we both love listening to Daniel Jeremiah. I'm with the Six. And the other day, he's just running through some guys, and he's like, quick thoughts. And he's like, Rashawn Johnson, he'll be a starter somewhere. It was just like really quick like that. But, a guy like, DJ, he knows that he's going to end up playing somewhere, and he's going to see all 3 downs because just the way he plays and what he can do even as I think as a pass blocker too. So I like him. It's probably about a half round higher than expected, but I like him.
Yeah, and I know based on our conversations that you do really like him, and I know that you've been kind of dreaming of some fits for him, I would imagine, with how much you've been looking at him. Do you have any dream teams you'd like him to be drafted to?
I don't know yet. It's hard to say just because of obviously where these where these free agents end up. But I mean, he plays really, really hard. I mean, I think so I'll put it this way. If the Lions lose Jamal Williams, if they could get him in the 3rd round at pick 81, that'd be really sweet. I mean, I think he could just really fit in there with a team that would just going to smash mouth, but they don't need to rely on him to carry the load either. So I'd love a fit like that. I'm a Lions fan. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased on that fit, but I think if they do lose Jamal Williams, as could be rumored here this week, because he might get some really big offers, I think that's a team that he could really do well with.
Yeah, I like that. And Kevin, you're on the board at 206.
Yeah, this is tough because I like both these kids. I was a big Zach Evans fan coming into 3 years ago, and he weighed in pretty bad at the combine. I'm not going to hold that against him too bad. I want to see what he does at his pro day, but until I do that, I'm going to take Tyjae Spears here. So I think it's between Spears and Evans, in my opinion, in terms of at this point, or Kendra, I guess Miller. It kind of depends where you're at. You're probably going upside here with Spears because of his pass catching. He's probably one of the best pass catchers in this class. He's a legitimate pass catcher, not like a swing, not like a dump off. Line him out outside and he can play. I think that he has really good combination of burst and long speed as well. He fits a lot of profiles here. So this is one of those ones that's going to be iffy until we see the draft capital. But I'll take Spears just based on that pass catching upside. And
yeah, he had a huge game in that bowl game, right, against USC. Yeah, that was.
I mean, he had 1,500 yards rushing last year. Yeah. He's not and he had 22 catches and everything there. He works really good between the tackles, even though he's 201 pounds. I think that he needs to get an inside zone or gap scheme or something like that. I realistically, I think a good spot for him is the Panthers. If they get a quarterback and then they take Spears later, 3rd round, even 4th, I might still be in at this point. And then he's going to get that usage like Dameon Pierce, these type of guys. I'd actually like him in the Panthers scheme.
Okay, cool. I like that
Nice.
pick as well. I'm going to kind of go off of what you were just saying with Zach Evans. I like Zach Evans as well. I think that, I'm not as high on Spears as others seem to be, but I don't hate on it at all. I think it's a great pick. But I'm going to take Evans at this next one, put him on the board. It seems like people were a little disappointed with how he weighed in at the combine. He was a little over 200, like you kind of said in the beginning. We're fighting over a couple of pounds sometimes with these guys, but I feel like Zach Evans has been a good player for a long time. I think he's going to get, some of the higher draft capital based on some of these other running backs that are left. So I'm going to take him here at 2.7. And Ben, you're back on the clock at the 2.8.
I know I'm sitting here debating whether I, continue with the running backs who I think there's probably one or two more guys still in a tier here where, again, the draft capital is just going to really shake this whole thing up. So there's two more guys left, but I mean, also Kayshon Boutte, I mean, is he, what's his fall, right? Like draft capital is going to matter so much for him. I mean, he didn't test that great, but I mean, if a team gets him in the second round, if he gets the George Pickens treatment, I mean, it's, I think he could take that route, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I want to bet on it yet because I don't know where he's going to get drafted in the NFL. So at this point, drafting in March, I'm going to bet on Kendra Miller still, I think. To me, he's him and Zach, right? Is it Zach Evans? I think it's his first name. They were together on the same team 2 years ago, and now I think their draft capital is going to be really similar too. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of who goes where. But I like Kendra Miller's game. I mean, I think he's a 3-down back because he catches the ball really well. He's an asset in the passing game. But I think he proved this year that he can handle the load by running the ball too. So, I think he's going to get a chance to get some carries somewhere and get some touches.
All right, cool. And Kevin back on. We have a little bit of a running back run here. We've got 4 in a row. Kevin, you're on the board at 2.9.
Yeah, this second round is running backs galore. That's really where you're gonna have it. I'm gonna just take another tight end. I'm gonna take Kincaid here. So I'm gonna take Dalton Kincaid from Utah. I think if you wanted to wait on tight end and didn't want to take Mayer, I think Kincaid. This tight end class is really loaded. Like Musgrave and Laporta and Kuntz and these other guys that are out there. They're very solid. So like I think you can go there. I'll just take Kincaid because of the upside and break up this running back run a little bit. I will say though, like besides maybe like Hyatt, I don't think any of these wide receivers deserve to go before this either. So like there's definitely a tier break at the wide receiver position after Downs. And then Hyatt's in there because Boutte tested so poorly. Like it's really hard to draft him early anymore. So like you're going to see that. So just you got to be aware of that in rookie drafts right now. Like if you want a wide receiver, you better go get the top 3 guys. Or if you have Flowers and Downs in that tier, okay, go grab those guys. Because after that, it gets really brutal out here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if this is gonna be like kind of a uncharacteristic spot for him. I'm gonna take Hendon Hooker off the board at 2.10. Like I said, I'm not a huge Will Levis fan, and I do like Hendon Hooker a little bit more. I think I feel a little bit safer with him. He's also a guy I feel like the buzz has been kind of picking up with him that he might, get drafted in the first round a little bit later, or early second, maybe in the first, so somebody can have a 5th-year option on him because he's probably going to miss most of 2023 from what I've heard. But, if he goes in the back end of the first, he could go to, essentially a better team that might be set up for him when he does come back in. And we're talking about a super flex league. We're talking about a dynasty league. So, it's not just based on what's going to happen in 2023. So I like Hooker here. I'm going to take him off the board at 2.10. Ben, what do you think at 2.11?
Yeah, I like the Hooker pick. By the way, it's I do think he's going to get a chance to start somewhere. I mean, possibly next year if he's healthy. So I think like Washington or something like that. I think they could end up maybe trying to take a shot on him if they swing and miss or just miss on this QB run. Sitting here, end of the second. I think at this point I'm going to take another guy that maybe I'm a little bit higher on than rookie drafts is Marvin Mims. I think he's going to get real solid day 2 NFL draft capital, maybe late day 2. But I really like his game. I just think he didn't get a fair shake at maybe proven himself over the last year or so. And I think he's going to surprise. He tested really well, and I don't know. I like his game, and I think he's going to outplay his draft capital.
All right, cool. Marvin Mims at 2.11, and then back to Kevin at 2.12.
That's a great pick. You just sniped me, by the way. No,
I'll take it, man.
You have it right there. Like I think I've been calling him this like all off season, and I've been saying he's Zay Flowers light. Like if you want, like he's a discount Zay Flowers. If you don't want to take Zay in the first, you could take Marvin Mims in the late second, early third. I think it's the same kind of profile and prospect. Yeah. But no, that's a good pick there. Man. I generally don't necessarily like this kid that much. So, but I don't think we can let him fall out of the second. So I'm going to take Sean Tucker from Syracuse. I really don't know what he's going to test like. And I think that's one of the big things. Like if it was up to fantasy Twitter, Sean Tucker would be like the 104. Yeah. But like, I think like most draft people are really down on Tucker's ability to run between the tackles. There's a lot of things on his tape that are worried. And then like, he didn't run at the 40 at the combine. I think that's telling because I think he knew he wasn't going to get in the 4.4. I think he's a 4.5 kid. If he's a 4.5 kid, he's going in the third round for sure. Like in terms of like rookie drafts. Cause I don't think he's going to get the draft capital we really like. So like, I'll take Tucker there just based on if he goes runs that 4.4 at his pro day, but if he doesn't, that's going to be really tough for his prospects.
Yeah. I think go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say I think it's an interesting point though too because we did take him after like this long run of running back. So I mean it feels like we're all probably feeling the same that he might not actually get drafted in the same range as a lot of the guys that we obviously took ahead of him. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go with 301. I'm gonna take Kayshon Boutte. I'm gonna just do it. I was getting kind of excited about him before the combine. I was feeling a little hot on what was going to happen, and I was pretty disappointed. And you trying not to weigh too much into it, but I mean, his numbers were pretty concerning there, and he hasn't really put up great production either. So I mean, we're going off of what he did 3 years ago now for the most part. Kevin, I know you're deep in the Devy space too. You've been following these guys for a long time, and I know he was a big name in the Devy community. So what do you think about Boutte?
No, he got injured, man. If he wouldn't have got injured that sophomore year when I think he got a Liz Frank. We don't know yet what it is. And so like, that's the weird thing. It's been one of those weird things they've kept quiet pretty well. Like they think it might be Achilles or a Liz Frank. He got something that hurt his athleticism. And I think that was the key. And he just has off field stuff, man. He's just dumb. Like he just does some dumb shit. Like, and it's just like, some guys that do that, but then like, I think the biggest thing is shows you just like he was coming back. Then he had some weird off the field stuff. Then he declares for the draft. And then he had this whole time, he had 3 months to prepare for the biggest interview of his life. And he didn't prepare. So like, to me, it's like, that just tells you everything you need to know, right? Like you had 3 months to prepare for one of the biggest interviews ever, get ready to run these combine drills and do all that. And then he had like one of the worst verticals I ever seen, like 30 inches or my fat ass might be able to go out there and do that. Right. Like at a certain point, like you got to be like, you got to be ready to go. And he wasn't like third round though. Yeah, whatever. Like you take the shot because he was wide receiver 1 this class before he got injured, but like, he's just not doing what he needs to do mentally.
Sure. Ben, at the 302.
Yeah, you're right. I am on the clock here. Sorry, who was I just looking at? So I think at this point, I would take Rashid Rice. He's a guy that I really like his game. I know. He's not the most athletic receiver, but it's again, I don't think it's necessarily part of his game either. So in a class of smaller receivers, I think he could get valued somewhere by an NFL team where he's going to get a chance to actually get some targets. So I honestly might get drafted ahead of Kayshon Boutte. So I don't know, we'll see. But he's a guy that I like it, and I think we'll get day 2 NFL draft capital.
Yeah, dude, the funny thing too, just on Boutte one more time. I mean, right before the combine, I tweeted it out saying like he's going to be, a good value in the early second or rookie mock or rookie drafts. I thought, and then somebody commented right away and said, "Well, where do you think he actually goes in the NFL draft?" And I said the second, and I was pretty confident about it. After that combine, I was thinking like, I don't know, maybe he'll be more of a day 3 guy. So we'll have to see. But Kevin, you're back on the board at 303.
Yeah. So, So then you start getting into these guys. I'm gonna take my guy Izzy Abanikanda from Pittsburgh, running back who didn't test at the combine. So I think that he could. He had a hamstring thing. So if he goes to Pitt, runs pretty well. He's a pretty good athlete, straight line guy. He's one of probably the better athletes of this class. So I think he'll end up probably getting a second round pick when it's said and done. But I'll take Izzy here.
Okay, cool. I like that pick. Yeah, he's been a pretty popular running back now, and it feels like he's been kind of climbing up boards. I'm going to go with Chase Brown out of Illinois. And he just feels like a guy to me that's going to like be on an NFL roster, and he's going to be a producer on a team. He's about 5'9", he's like 210, ran a pretty good 40, like 4.43. And I kind of think he's just going to be productive in the NFL. So I think in the third round here, I'm going to take him at the 3-4.
I like the Chase Brown pick. He, I watched him tear up Michigan, this year, and Michigan ended up winning that game. But he looked honestly really similar to Blake Corum, really, and so almost like a poor man's Blake Corum. So yeah, I like that bet at this point.
All right, and you're back on the board at 305.
Yeah, so to me, I think the third round is, to Kevin's point, how strong this tight end class is. I mean, where I think you can eat running backs in the second round, I think the third round with this year, you can really start to dip into the tight end value, and start to grab some of these guys. So, we'll see. I don't know. You're auto drafting me Darnell Washington.
Was that not where you were going?
I don't know. I'm honestly not sure. Like it's, I love him as a football player. Like Darnell Washington is just a freaking monster, but I don't know like what his timeline looks like to actually produce as a pass catcher at the NFL level. And so, for fantasy purposes, I don't know if I honestly want to bet on that, at this point. So, for me, it probably comes down to Musgrave or, I think he's too far down here. The kid from Iowa who tested really well.
Laporta.
Laporta. So I think I'm going to take Laporta. I really liked how he tested. He wasn't in a great offense, but Iowa produces tight ends. So I think for me, I would take Sam Laporta because the athleticism's there. 6'4", 250, and I'll just bet on the growth.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you were doing your whole tight end speech there. I thought you were going to Darnell Washington.
I love Darnell Washington, the football player. Don't get me wrong, man. He's a freaking monster. But
yeah, no, I feel the same way. I'm not sure how he'll produce for fantasy either. And yeah, the Iowa lineage there at tight end is a pretty good bet. So Kevin, you're back on the board at 306.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go. I like Laporta pick. I mean, him and Musgrave right there, I think is pretty good value for both those guys. I had to actually message Sleeper though and tell him put in Laporta, like I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, because I was like, hey, I'm so sick of this bull crap. Laporta should be in your database. And they're like, oh, my bad. I'm like, yeah, like that's so I'm kind of a truther there. But no, I'm gonna take Eric Gray out of Oklahoma. I think he's one of the best values in the third round, running back. Good 3-down ability, had 1,300 yards for Oklahoma this last year, 11 touchdowns, can catch. I think he's, if you want to know who Aaron Jones is, I think this could be Aaron Jones. Mm-hmm. So Eric Gray from Oklahoma, that's our comp for him. And I think that he has value in that third.
Okay, great. I'm going to go back to the running back as well. I'm going to take Dwayne McBride from UAB. Get him off the board as well. So maybe we'll start a little bit of a running back run again. Kevin, I'm going to toss this back over to you. What do you think about McBride?
So the weird thing with McBride was he lost, he was supposed to be like 220 and he was 209 at the combine. That definitely hurts his profile a little bit because he came in as this 5'10" bruiser, 1,700 yards his junior year. And he's really an inside zone type guy, power concept guy. How does that work at 209? I think that's the biggest question mark coming in. We have a mock to Tyler Algier, comped. If he can have that Algier type role, if he finds himself in a good downhill scheme like the Falcons was. The problem with McBride is he can't catch. He has 5 career catches. So if you're looking, he's a first down, second down back like Algier, doesn't have that pass catching upside at all. And I think that's the question mark that you have to think about when you draft him.
Okay, cool. Thanks for stepping in there, Kevin. Appreciate it.
No problem.
We got you, Ben, at 308.
Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, do I grab another running back or do I just continue to eat on the tight ends at this point? And, the argument might be the same thing, like you said, Kevin, with Musgrave and is it him or Washington? And I think I would take Musgrave just again because, you can put Musgrave on the board for me, Jay. It's, again, I like the value of the tight ends. The athleticism's there. I think that, in probably 2 years' time, you're going to have a pretty good starting NFL tight end. So it's going to take some time, but it's the third round. So I'll throw him on my taxi squad and see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, we like that. And Kevin, you're back on the board, 309.
Yeah, man, I was going to take Musgrave too. Let me see. You know what? I'll throw up Cedric Tillman for me. I'll take Cedric here. I think Cedric's okay. That nonsense that he's like the best pass catcher on Tennessee. Hyatt won the Blitnikoff last year, y'all. Like the Blitnikoff goes to the best wide receiver in the country. He beat Marvin Harrison Jr. out, and whether or not you believe that he should have done that, he did. Tillman has been injured his entire career except for one time, and that was last year. And even then, there was some question marks about his long speed and stuff like that. So like Hyatt was definitely the best receiver. I think Tillman can be serviceable, can go up and get it, can be a target guy. So I'll take him here in the third.
Okay, cool. I like that as well. And I'm going to go with Kenny McIntosh here at the 310, which another guy who I think, many were disappointed with his combine. He ran like in the 4.6s, but, he played in a big program at Georgia. He seemed like he was, on the field all the time there. He seems like he can, catch the ball a little bit as well, has pretty good size. So I'm going to take McIntosh at 310 and then toss it back to you, Ben, at 311.
Yeah, this pick might be made more with my heart, but I'm going to take Deuce Vaughn just because that's a guy I just want on my team, and that's a guy I want.
It's a heart type of player, Ben.
Yeah. And I just want to root for Deuce Vaughn because he's freaking awesome. I mean, and I might be taller than him, and I'm 5'5", 5'6". So I mean, it's just fun to root for a guy like that. And hey, I mean, if he hits and maybe fits a role somewhere, that's great.
Yeah. I think we're all going to be rooting for him for sure. Kevin, you're on the board at 312.
No, little Deuce Vaughn.
Little Deuce Coop.
I'll take Darnell here. I feel like he's got to go in the third because his draft capital is probably going to predicate himself on getting like first. He'll probably go first or early second. Darnell is one of the best blocking tight ends ever, like that I've seen come out of college. Like he is legit, like he'll stay in the league for 12 years because he's gonna block for 12 years. Like, and that's where it's gonna be. I think the question mark is like, and Ben brought this up, like, what kind of pass catcher is he going to be? And I think that's why he's going to shoot him down the board a little bit because he's one of those guys going to be a hell of a football player. But from a fantasy output perspective, like, what can he be? Like, and I think that's the question. I will say, like, it's happening on Twitter. I don't know if you guys know this, but Twitter can exaggerate, and it can also like be dramatic at times.
Yeah.
I see like some noise about Darnell, like, well, 12 personnel scheme, and you had Brock Bowers, who's one of the best tight end prospects ever. They just threw the ball to Brock, and like, yes, but they also like rely on their tight ends a lot. When you're looking at kind of their usage rates and everything there, like they did throw to Darnell, but Darnell was injured a lot. Like Darnell was off the field a lot. There was a lot of question marks there. He has some questionable drops too. Like, so Darnell does have like a lot of drops on his tape, concentration drops. And me and a couple of the Devy guys that from Devy Watch, we always laugh about it because we're like, hey, has Darnell caught one yet in his hands? Because everything, it just seems like it's one-handed or it's a drop. It's just like there's nothing like in between. So like I think Darnell needs to be around this area, but I do understand like people not wanting to draft him based on his upside as a pass, his lack of upside as a pass catcher.
Yeah, is there a team, like a dream fit that you'd like to see him land on?
Oh, so when we did this, like we did all our rookie guide like 2 months ago, and we comped him to Martellus Bennett, and I think if he found himself like on the Chargers, if he was like their guy, like maybe they got him in the second somehow, and they didn't bring back why am I forgetting his name?
Everett.
Yeah, Everett. Yeah. If they didn't bring back Everett and they like looked at Darnell being that guy and pair him with Herbert, or I put him to the Bengals with Burrow. Like if he goes someplace where his quarterback, they will target their tight end and they maybe can score touchdowns in the red zone and has that pinpoint accuracy, then I'll shoot him up a little higher. Like that's kind of where I'd be looking for with him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a fun fit. Yeah. That'll definitely get people excited for the fantasy value as well. I'm going to go at the 4-1. I'm going to take Xavier Hutchinson. It's not showing up on my board yet, but I'm going to take him at the 4-1 from Iowa State. He's got good size. He's like 6'3", a little over 200 pounds, and he's just super productive in college. I mean, he just had over 100 catches, 1,100 yards. I think that's kind of a guy in the fourth round here where I'm just going to, kind of bet on that and hope that he's able to carry some of that production into the pros. And I'm going to take him in the early fourth here. Ben, what do you think at 402?
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna dip down the board here a little bit, and I'm gonna take a guy that I don't know if he's getting enough love. His 40 wasn't what I expected it to be, but Tyler Scott from Cincinnati, I think is explosive as heck, and I think he's probably gonna get. I honestly could still see him going day two because of how explosive he is, and I think his game speed is a heck of a lot faster than what he ran. I think it was like a 4.4, which is still plenty fast, but it wasn't, possibly best at the combine fast as maybe he was expected to run. But I think Tyler Scott, he's smaller, but this is a class full of smaller guys.
All right, cool. And kicking it back to you, Kevin, at 403.
Yeah, I'll go with between a couple guys here. I'll take Rakeem. I'll take my guy Rakeem. I'm gonna go out on Rakeem forever. I liked him going in Devy in the 4th round. I'll take his physical upside and just hope. And I think his nuance as a receiver and those things, there's question marks there. But as an athlete, like the way I look at 4th round picks, I'm just gonna take athletes and just hope they pan out. That's what I do, and I'm just gonna wing it. That's what I look at athletes, and I'm just gonna take the best athlete.
Yeah, I like that strategy. When you're in the 4th round, that's kind of what you got to follow. I mean, last year, honestly, I'll shout out. I mean, JJ Zachariason all offseason was saying just take Isaiah Pacheco in all your 4th rounds, just because he thought he was going to be able to work his way onto a roster. I took him in all those 4th rounds and just kind of followed it because he was a good athlete and had a good profile in that sense. And so I jumped on Pacheco, and who knows what's going to be in the future. But I mean, for this year, it was profitable for sure. I am going to take. One sec. Let's see who's here. I'm going to take Evan Hull from Northwestern, the running back. You guys watch him at the combine? He's the one that was finishing every single run to the end zone. Yeah. Which got to be a little bit a lot after the 5th or 6th time he did it. But I love the heart there.
He was committed to the bit.
He was committed, man, and I hope he's going to finish those runs in the pros as well. I'm going to take him here in the 4th. Hope he's able to make a roster somewhere and contribute. So I'll kick back to you, Ben, at 405.
Perfect. Speaking of just betting on athletes, a guy that I don't even know where he's at on the list, to be honest with you, but Michael Wilson from Stanford. He's been injured a lot, and I think it's a foot injury, so which I don't love. But I mean, 4th round, I think that if he can stay healthy, he's a fun guy to bet on. What is he? I think he's like 6 foot, 6'1", 215, bigger guy for the class. And he's a really good athlete. So I'll just bet on it at this point. Like you were saying, Kevin.
Yeah, we're taking shots. We're throwing darts. So Kevin, you're at 406.
Yeah, I'm going to take for the same, nuance for that. I'm going to take Trey Palmer from Nebraska. He played LSU, played behind a lot of these guys. Trey's one of those guys that he's just a good athlete. I don't know how great of a football player he is, like in terms of catching the football, but like he's a really good, like just an athlete, and he has some special teaming knowledge. And he played at LSU when all those guys were there, Jefferson, Chase, all those guys, and he never got the Boutte and then Neighbors last year. So like he never got to like take off. Then he transferred to Nebraska, he had a pretty good year, solid year in a pretty bad spot. So I think Trey in the 4th round, again, athletic measurables and traits. Like I think he scored over a 9 on his RAS score, relative athletic score. Like I'll take the shot on that.
Yeah, I like that. We're all going to take the shots on the upside here in the 4th round for sure. I'm going to follow the same sort of model here, and I'm going to take the Bryce Ford Wheaton. Just a big guy, big receiver. Let's see what he can do in the pros. 6'4", over 220, from West Virginia. I'm gonna take him off the board here. He ran a 4.38. Let's just see what the upside is. See if he makes a roster and he contributes. So I'm going to take him there based on some of the measurables and some of the testing, and just see what happens there. And Ben, you're back up at 4.7 or 4.8. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to look up something really quick. I'm going to take Charlie Jones from Purdue. So he's a guy. He put up really great numbers for Purdue last year after transferring, and I think that if he was probably a bit more consistent or had a chance to put up the same numbers as he did last year, I forget what it was, but I think it was like 12 to 1,500 yards or something like that for Purdue. So he was a really nice player for them this year. So I think he again, betting on anybody at this point in the draft, but he really hit it last year. And so, yeah, let's see if he can keep it going.
All right, Kevin at 4.9.
Yeah, I'm going to take Speedy, my guy, Keaton Mitchell, little guy out of ECU. Obviously didn't measure in very well at the combine, but hey, he's fast, he's quick, and maybe he finds a roster, can catch passes. So I'll take Keaton Mitchell here.
Okay. And I'm gonna, it's fun. My last pick of the draft, so we're gonna go. Yeah. We're gonna go in on it, man. I'm gonna take Stetson Bennett off the board, and let's just see what happens. Let's just throw him out there. Let's see what happens. maybe he makes it, as a backup in the NFL. I actually saw pretty funny. He was working out with a quarterback coach this offseason, and the report was he's working out with the same quarterback coach as Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci, I believe. And it was like, oh, yeah, and Kevin, actually, you're a Cowboys fan, so lines up there. But it was pretty funny because it was like he's working out with these guys, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of what Stetson Bennett will probably be.
Yeah, that's your career
type of guy that might get on the field at some point. So I'm just going to take him there, have some fun at the 4-9, and pass it back to you, or 4-10, and pass it to you, Ben, at 4-11.
Yeah, I'm on my last pick here now, aren't I? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, now at this point, you're just trying to get ahead of somebody that maybe over the summer could fight for a role somewhere, or could you just want to get ahead of the fab bets and all that. I mean, in a super flex, I don't know. I'm almost kind of feeling Max Duggan. He's tested kind of surprisingly well. He's a guy that it's kind of showed the heart. I mean, I like him better than I like Stetson Bennett. So, it's if he's at the end of my bench, as a late 4th round pick and a super flex, like, let's see if maybe he can, maybe he lands in Washington and it's him versus Sam Howell. Like, that sounds gross as hell, but maybe he has a shot to beat out somebody like that, or he ends up in Tampa Bay versus Trask. So, we'll see what happens with Max Duggan over the summer.
All right, Kevin, clean us up here at 4-12. We went with Stetson Bennett and Max Duggan. Bring us home.
I keep calling Max Duggan the Taysom Hill of the class, and it keeps making people mad. But I'm like, hey, he can run and he can score touchdowns. And
that's a fantasy guy.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was telling. I was.
You got glass half full, not half empty. Look at the good sides of Taysom Hill.
Maybe he ends up in Denver.
Hey, that would be some funny shit. Man, so like there's so many guys on here like that fit that athletic profile that we look for. Andrea Sovis from Princeton's out there. A.T. Perry. Actually, you know what? I
wanted to ask you about A.T. Perry. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm gonna take A.T. Perry, so I can talk about it a little bit. I'll just take him anyway because he's still out there. I mean, Jonathan Mingo's still there. There's some other guys out there that you're looking at. AT was pretty good in terms of like prospect wise, 2,000-yard seasons back to back. I think for him being a 3-sport kid, he operates in space really well, has good size, 150 catches. I think he had over 200 targets the last 2 years. Like he's a target getter, right? So if he gets in an offense where he's like, has a good RPO sets in terms of like, hey, run pass options, getting him up in space, good point of attack, red zone guy. We comped him to Tim Patrick. And if you can, I think it's a pretty fair comp. If he can give you that Tim Patrick guy before the injury where you're like, hey, I can kind of start him some flex spots sometimes, like that would be his ceiling, but I don't mind him. I think in the 4th round, A.T. Perry's not a bad kind of stab.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say too about A.T. Perry is, and I mentioned it about a couple of the guys, is like he's unique to this class just because of the size that he has. So, I mean, it's a much smaller receiver class. So, he could get that chance somewhere and in a really weak receiver free agent class. So, I mean, he could have a chance to actually maybe battle for some targets early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe like Carolina or something, right? That could be fun.
Yeah. Carolina's got to add some receivers to that room.
Yeah, anybody's fun there.
And before we wrap up a little bit, Kevin, I just want to hear some more of your thoughts on this in terms of maybe some surprises here, some good values that you think we're taking here, maybe some surprising ones. Just some thoughts on how this mock went.
Yeah. I think overall in the first, that's pretty consensus right now in terms of where everything is at. I think, Roschon has a chance, like we talked about, to be that kid that we're like, oh, wow, yeah, Roschon is legitimate drafted. So in the middle of the second is good. I just think overall, like even in this draft, you see it. There's a lot of like, I see these weird narratives. I saw one today, like, this is the worst class we've seen in how many years, like the wide receiver class and stuff like that. And like, I don't think that's true. I think that there's a lot of good solid depth. I think the tight end class is really valid. So look at the tight ends that got drafted. There's dudes that still aren't drafted though, right? Like there's tight ends out there. Tucker Kraft looked okay. Will Mallory from Miami is really good. So when you're going through that, Zach Kuntz didn't get drafted and he had a very, very solid 40 and combine. Like, so I think there's value. I think there's what there is this class. Like, yeah, the running backs is all over the place. So the wide receivers look down, but there's so many good athletic wide receivers that we didn't even draft in this class that like that. I think where the value is. That's what you see here. Like Trey Palmer has a great, Michael Wilson, great pick. Ford Wheaton is a good athletic pick. I wish he knew how to catch, but if he could turn that around, like that's where you look at. Like, I think this mock is pretty much what we see, like in terms of like all the mocks that I've been doing. But overall, like I think it just shows the value of the class as a whole. Like there's value to be had. Like it's not crazy like where people are doomsday. Oh my God. Like, yeah, some people haven't stepped up, and I think there's really difference makers in those first 7 picks. Like there's some difference makers. And then that's what you look at. Like last year, how many difference makers do we really have out of last year's class? Like we have some, but like I think maybe we'll have more difference makers in this class, and that's where the value's at.
Yeah. And Ben, what are some of your thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, well, kind of following up on what Kevin was saying is like, I feel like if I don't have like, call it a top 6 pick in the class right now, I'm really trying to eat where the value I feel like is really in the mid second and even, into the early third. But if I can get, some second round picks right now before the NFL draft, I think that the running back class, I mean, wherever these guys land, I think they're all going to get chances. I think there's probably upwards of eight guys here that could get a shot to get some carries early, but you're going to eat that value in the second round, and same with tight end. So yeah, I think that's landing spots are going to change a lot, but now is an opportunity to kind of pick where that value's at.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a couple weeks ago people talking about like, from like the 112 to like, the 29 or so, like what's really the difference? There's so many of these guys in that same like bucket. And when I was first kind of seeing that, I was thinking that's a little, that seems crazy. Like there's not really. But then when you really get into that mid second and, there's a lot of hard decisions that you're making over guys that, if you can get some value to move back a couple picks and still get the guy that you like, it seems like there's a lot of competitions kind of in that mid second. Just where it comes down to preference of who you like. And so some of those guys might actually drop. And yeah, just so different than last year with these quarterbacks. I mean, now that Anthony Richardson's kind of, jumping up into that top 4 range that we all kind of expected, these past couple weeks, but now that we're really seeing it, I mean, it's pushing back like we said, kind of in the beginning, I felt like the 1-7 was the tier break also, but now, if there is Addison there, if there is Quentin Johnston there, like it feels like, you can still get some good value at those later firsts. And then like we were talking about during the draft too, the Zay Flowers, Josh Downs will be interesting to see where those two get drafted and really how it turns out from there. So yeah, this was fun. Really appreciate both of you guys coming on here. I'm sorry that, Sam couldn't be on with us, but this was a great show, and, happy you guys came on. And Kevin, tell any of our listeners, where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, you guys can find me at @theboys_22 on Twitter, but you can find my work at Footballguys. We have a guide coming out. So we have our big rookie guide that we did. We did over like 130 player profiles. It's way too many of them because we're stupid. And so we did a ton. And we have a 3rd edition coming. So after the draft, we're going to be dropping another one with every team that they get drafted by. And we're going to be giving you guys your best for rookie drafts. And so if you go check it out, you got to get a Footballguys membership for that one. But our first 2 are free. So you guys can check it out and look at it. You can get it at footballguys.com/guide. But you can go to the website, you can find it. But that's just something that we spend a lot of time, probably about 6, 7, 8 weeks. I don't even know how many hours of time I spend into that thing. So go check it out. It's free. Shit, who doesn't like free stuff? So go check it out now. And then if it's worth your stuff, you can go get it. The 3rd edition for the paid edition.
Awesome. And Ben, I know you're not making the content right now, but you're cooking up takes all the time on Twitter. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, man. At the extra point FF on Twitter. That's about, that's it right now. Just looking forward to obviously the, free agency starting tomorrow as we record this. So I don't know, by the time everybody's listening, it's going to be, free agency starting. So super excited here for the next couple of weeks, couple of months. And yeah, man, I'll be tweeting throughout and hopefully jumping on maybe on another pod with you guys or something. So
awesome. Sounds good. And that's it for us at High Floor Football. Happy free agency.